Let's talk about emptiness. There's a lot of people that feel like their lives aren't fulfilling, and this feeling comes from people of all ages. 16-year-olds in high school, 20-year-olds in college, 30-somethings with significant time in their career, older people that are retired, you name it. All of them have this shared feeling of emptiness, sadness, like there isn't a lot of meaning to their lives. What's it all for? What's the point? Why am I here? If you're asking yourself these questions on a daily basis, then you're probably in this group of people. Either that, or you need to stop smoking and get off the psychedelics, man. Seriously. These sorts of feelings can be hard to get rid of, especially if you're acting on your own. Having a therapist or a friend who knows you well is better since they can provide that outside perspective, but without them, boy, is it tough. And even with a support group, it's challenging. There's entire professions dedicated to solving this issue, and it's not exactly a one-and-done solution. It's not. It tends to be an ongoing process. Far be it from me to act as a doctor and mass diagnose everybody, but I think a massive part of why people are sad is because they're consuming too much and creating too little. I repeat, I'm not acting like this is going to cure depression and all manner of negative emotions, but I sincerely think just creating stuff makes people a lot happier. Hear me out. A couple of years ago, I was in the same boat as a lot of the people I mentioned, feeling empty. I worked, I studied, and I played. Everything I did in my day-to-day routine revolved around using or consuming somebody else's stuff. I made my money from helping somebody else's business grow. I learned in college by reading textbooks that other people wrote. I played video games that somebody else made. It was all consumption. None of it was mine. And I didn't feel very good. I was surrounded by work and play, but in the moments of rest, I felt a big void, like something was missing. Eventually, that void started to creep into my work and my play, and that's when things felt especially miserable. Then, things changed. I won't say it was a cure-all to each and every single one of my problems, but I can say that I became a lot happier when I started to make my own things, when I started to create. I've had a few YouTube channels before this one. My consistency left a lot to be desired, but there was this warm feeling, a sense of wholeness whenever I was working on a new video. There was a lot of start and stop in the slow moments, times where I had to learn certain edits or find ways to give the script a little more punch. But when I got going, when I was in the trenches and getting my hands dirty on a unique creative project, I felt great. I felt content. The hours would melt away as I cut up clips and moved them around the Sony Vegas. I didn't mind. And seeing the finished product up on YouTube, regardless of the views, although some did pretty well, it was a fantastic feeling. My original major in college was video game design and development. I wanted to make games. I ended up dropping out and transitioning into business and finance, but that itch to make games, well, it never really went away. So when I took a career break some years later for mental health purposes, while also going back to college, this time online for a business degree, I had a lot of free time and I wanted to make game levels. The problem was that making a game was, and still is, no easy feat. There's a lot of moving pieces. Programming, audio, art, a bunch of different things, right? But I just wanted to design. So I downloaded this framework for making your own 2D Sonic game that covered everything except design, and I got to work. I may have programmed some basic level gimmicks and repainted a couple of existing tile sets, but the bulk of what I used outside design was stuff that somebody else already made, thankfully, and I'm grateful for them. The design was all me, though. And getting that translation from what was in my mind to pen and paper, to level editor, to the final polished product, I gotta tell you, it felt insanely satisfying. I did it. I made a full-blown level, top to bottom. I published a video about it that didn't get too many views, and I obviously didn't charge people to play the level. It's just one level, and it's a fan game. It's a licensed property. You're not allowed to charge for it. There was very little upside to committing the time to make this level, which was about 4 to 6 hours every day for a month. I could probably do it faster now, but it was a learning process given that I still had to figure out a couple things with the framework for making the level. Point is, even though I got nothing out of it financially, in the status sense, from my finance career, or anything, nothing out of it, I was probably the happiest I'd ever been in my life working on that level. That's not an exaggeration. And playing through the finished level, the finished project, was damn near euphoria. I loved creating it, and I loved admiring what I created. Both the videos I uploaded and the levels I've made have a lot of things that I could change today, that I would change today, as is the case for any creative. Things are easy to criticize in retrospect, but that feeling of bringing about something into the world that only you can make is unmatched. I think everyone deserves to have that feeling. The question I found myself asking later on was why it took so long to start making stuff if doing so made me feel as good as it did. Part of it might have come down to not wanting to fail or be bad at something that kept me from starting. You could argue it's that. There's also the perfectionist mindset that keeps you from putting out anything and sort of drives you insane in the process of making it. And obviously there's the discipline needed to see something through to the very end in a society that hardly cultivates discipline. That can be hard to build up. In the grand scheme, though, I don't think any of those are to blame for what held me or other people back. I actually think the main culprit is conditioning and the way in which we were brought up. Because from the beginning, the timeline that's laid out by most people in your life is go to school, go to work, have fun outside of work, enjoy your vacations, then retire and enjoy yourself full time. Not one part of that path involves creating. It's all about being part of somebody else's creation. But here's the thing. Once upon a time, somebody started that school that you and thousands of other people go to. Somebody made that. That multi-billion-dollar international corporation that you work for, it began with just one or maybe a couple of people and an idea. Before the giant offices and corporate politics, it was just the founders and their dream. The mom and pop restaurant you visit when you go out to eat, that's their business. They report to themselves. That's all theirs. That tourist attraction that everyone visits when they're not working needs work to be done there by a bunch of people. Your vacation is somebody else's business. Everything you interact with and consume on a day-to-day basis is something that someone else made. A business, a TV show, a program on your computer, or an app on your phone. They're all creations. For some, this might be pretty obvious, but for whatever reason, I didn't catch on. I didn't get it until recently. Life was always so abstract for me. Universities are huge. Companies are huge. Disney World and these resorts, they're all huge. I never put together that these things don't just exist by themselves in a vacuum. They came from somewhere. Obviously, I knew that. I knew the history of these companies, but it never clicked. I never legitimately internalized that everything started from scratch, from nothing, that these things were all built from the ground up. And when I finally had that realization, it was one of those, oh my God, mindset shifts that changes everything. When most people think of a business, they think of people in suits, board meetings, Wall Street, briefcases full of cash, right? Dude, anything you do that people can pay you money to do can be a business. You selling water bottles out of a cooler by a soccer field on a hot summer day, that is a business. Companies are so big these days that I didn't know that. That didn't occur to me. When people on YouTube told me to start a business, I was thinking about renting store space and having a physical presence and a uniform and staff and all this other stuff. That is a business, don't get me wrong, but that's not the only way to have one. Anything can be a business. I didn't mean for this video to pivot into business discussion, but businesses are unique, creative inventions, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Anyway, when you spend your entire life just using what other people have made, it's going to feel like a bore, like you're useless. Because in a way, you sort of are. You're just consuming. You are taking things out, but you have nothing to put back in. Your job, sure, that creates value, but the problem with jobs is that a lot of people feel like anybody can do theirs. It's not a unique thing. Almost anybody can stack boxes, right? So while you're technically giving back, you feel replaceable. The world might need people for this job, but it doesn't need you in particular. I think that's why corporate America feels as awful as it does. Where things get magical is when you take things that other people have made and you combine it with your skills, your experience, your interests to make something completely original. That's when you start to feel like your contributions matter. That's what this channel is. It's a combination of what already exists with something new. YouTube is a platform that lets me put myself out into the world in video form for free. The camera on my phone that I'm recording with, it allows me to capture myself visually. This Blue Yeti microphone lets me speak with a good degree of clarity. The lights behind me make me look not terrible. Sony Vegas is a crash-heavy, frustration-inducing editing program, but I'm too lazy to learn Adobe Premiere, so it's what I have to use to make the videos. I take all these individual pieces, these things other people have made, and I combine them with my own contributions, my voice and way of speaking, my writing style, and my personal experiences. And that's how you have this video. Perhaps somebody else could have covered this topic, but only I could have done it in this exact manner. Only I could have made this video. That's inspiring to me. It's okay to consume, but perhaps it's time to start paying the world back a bit, you know? You get so much in the way of unique entertainment, delicious food, valuable advice from others, and a wide variety of other things. But the people that made these things possible, remember, they're human, just like you and me. They consume same as you would, but they also create something for others to consume, something only they can create. And that makes them matter. It makes them happier too, it's true. People who have written books or directed film or developed a new app or program, they're the most likely to criticize their work, that's true. But in the end, these people are so proud of their craft, more proud than anybody else. They have the right to be. Business owners look back fondly on the days when they were scraping pennies because as hard as it might have been, they never felt more alive. They were doing what they wanted to do, providing the value that only they could provide. Now it's your turn. What is it that you're passionate about? Is there something you like to do that you can do better than other people? Are there separate areas of interest that you think would be cool to combine together? What do you want to experiment with? What can you make? Take your inspiration and use it. Mess around and make something of your own. The world needs to see it, the thing only you could create. Put it out there and let other people enjoy it. Play your part in the human melting pot. Don't just fill up your bowl and walk away. Have a taste of what the melting pot has to offer and respond with, do you know what this is missing? It's missing this. And you give it your gifts. You gotta love the weird metaphors. Melting pot. Soup, is that? I don't know what that is. There's no doubt you have at least some time to dedicate to see what you're capable of. You're going to face some hurdles, that much is obvious, but where others might have left due to lack of interest or passion, you can see that final product, that complete version of what you want in your head, and that's driving you forward. It's moving you forward. You learn new things on your way to making what you want, and when you finally put it out there, wow, that felt great. Give yourself a pat on the back. But now you've got some new ideas. Now you get to do it all again. Does that sound like work? Well, technically it is, but you feel so happy doing it that you can't help yourself. Wait, since I'm doing this for hours and hours, is there a way to make money from this? Oh, now you're really on the right track. But I won't make this another business video. What I want you to focus on is just the idea of putting something out there. The feeling of making something that, again, it's wholly your own. That feeling is truly unmatched. You need to experience that. Ignore the objections because I know you're coming up with some. Are you worried that what you're making isn't original? Too much like what somebody else has put out? Nonsense. Lesson one of the creative world is that everything is derivative. The great creative works of our day wouldn't exist if those that made them weren't influenced or inspired by the works of others. This is just how it works. It's the natural cycle of things. It's how we grow. To use an example, Captain Sinbad, one of my favorite content creators, one of my biggest influences. He got his inspiration from YouTubers like Matt D'Avella and others. He started out small, making videos that did draw from those influences, but over time you can see he developed his own style. Now he's inspired a new wave of content creators after him, and so the cycle continues. Don't worry if you feel like a copycat. Everyone's a copycat to a certain extent. So long as you're genuinely doing what you want to do, you're going to develop your own identity within whatever space you work in. This video is not meant to serve as a self-help call to action to get to the gym or start a business or even meditate. None of that stuff. It's simply an invitation to do stuff, to make stuff. It's not a matter of getting better or making more money. It's about exploring these curiosities that a lot of us have been semi-trained by society not to follow through on. Play around with your curiosity. See where it takes you. It could very well be that this hobby or passion you explore turns into a career or makes you famous. But again, that's not the goal. The goal is simply to stop ignoring that creative itch. Because I know you've got it. I've had it basically my entire life. And the stuff that you interact with and consume on a daily basis, cars, computers, food, you name it, that's come as a result of people listening to their itch. So if I have it and they have it, I know for sure you have that itch too. You don't have to be good at a thing or make money from a thing, but please just do a thing. Make a thing. Create. Stop consuming. Start creating. Because once you do, I think you're going to find that life becomes just a little more colorful. And as for the rest of us, we cannot wait to see what you have to give us. But until then, we'll see you on the other side.